Welcome to MedShark Insider with Bill Fukui, your expert host on all things medical marketing and SEO.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of MedShark Insider. Today, I have a returning guest, Mindy, and Mindy is an intake and business development practice building expert who's been in the business for an extremely long period of time, almost as long as I have, but not quite as long. But she is here today, and we're going to be talking about one of the areas that I think practices struggle the most, and that is how do they take leads and opportunities that many times just fall in their lap, but they're either not tracking it or they've not trained staff members to effectively convert them. So I'm just going to be grilling our expert Mindy today on really that intake process and follow-up process that's so critical. Mindy, just kind of as a precursor, what have you typically found when doing, working with practices in terms of helping them with lead gen? And that's a large part of your business is managing those. What do you typically find in situations?
Sure. I can certainly go over that. And Bill, thank you for having me. Really love to be back. Um, what I find is that there are just big gaps, right? And it depends on the practice and whether they're just bringing in a new modality of treatment or they're brand new or where they're sitting, right? So, let's take, for example, a mid-level practice and they brought in some new modalities of treatment and they're running some digital marketing to bring those leads forward, right? So
Right.
I think what we're finding and what I found over the years is it's really, really important to answer them quickly. And then the bottom line is the goal is to book them as soon as you can, not the following week. If you can book them in the same week, your success rate is a lot higher, only because they don't, you're dealing with a population that doesn't want to get out of bed at times,
Yep.
right? Let alone
Yeah.
come there. And it's best to get that sooner than later. They've also inquired, usually, in the middle of the night when they can't sleep and they're worried or anxious or depressed. So you want to get them in as soon as possible. That's what I would say. The top two are answer quickly and then get them in as soon as you can.
So in practices, and you know this, you get practices whose schedules are so busy, right? I've recommended for quote marketing driven, leads and consultations, that kind of stuff, to maybe if they're once the demand is recognized and people are getting scheduled wait like you said 2 3 a month out right in
Yeah.
some cases, right? Does it make sense to block time out in schedules for those types of marketing driven consumers because they're different than like referrals or other types of repeat patients that are going to come in, right?
Exactly. So those need to be treated differently across the board. And there's a few tips I can give in how to do that effectively when it's really that's one of the biggest challenges
Yeah.
right there. So first of all, those leads do need to take priority.
Hmm.
Why? Because the doctor referral, they're going to wait. They will. Their doctor sent them there and they will wait a little bit longer and they have a trust factor that's already there. So a couple of tips are blocking out just sometimes, whether it be every Tuesday and Thursday, 1 to 4, those are reserved for internet leads, right? And so
Hmm.
you can do that, and that's definitely helpful and it'll work. And another thing to do, Bill, that it depending on how the practice is set up, most people should be giving some type of complementary assessment or consultation when it's a new modality of treatment. So if it's TMS or ketamine, Spravato, if it's when psychedelics comes down the
Right.
pike, all of that. If you can get them under your wing with someone in your office first,
Yes.
just call it, whether it be an assessment or you have clinical people that can do almost a mini consult.
Mm-hmm.
If you can do that and then they have to wait a week, that's fine because you've already put your arm around them and they're comfortable. Does that make sense? That's really where there's got to be like something that's just a little tip that if an office can do it and
Right.
they do, now you've eliminated that piece where they're just waiting to see you for a month because 5 people will call them in between and
Yeah.
you will lose them.
Yeah. No question. No question. One of the things that, and I'm newer to the mental health space than you are. You've had many years in the mental health space. So when I've got practices talking about telehealth or telemedicine, teletreatment,
Mm-hmm.
how does that all fall into, how, best practices on moving patients through the, through through treatment, right? And potential leads that come in, getting them into treatment.
When you run digital and it's for telehealth, and then those leads are coming in, right? So typically, nationwide, there are really long waiting lists for therapy. So you
Oh,
can only do so much, right? You're not going to do Spravato, ketamine, TMS. That's not going to be telehealth.
right.
Maybe
No,
the
that's
first consult is, but that's not going to be telehealth. So it's usually med management or therapy.
not.
And
Hmm.
that's where the waiting lists are. And so if you're dealing with a practice and they don't have a waiting list, you're ahead of that game right there. Because
Yeah.
yeah, because I can tell you they're a mile long and it's sad. People are waiting 3 months, 4 months for a therapist.
Yeah.
And that's not great. So the first thing I would say is for that practice, to utilize the fact that we don't have a waiting list and let them know right up front.
Hmm.
And then when those leads are coming in, they should be prioritized as
Yeah.
well. Same thing, because if the office doesn't prioritize the internet leads, it's only hurting them. That digital spend is going out the window.
Hmm.
Because
Yeah.
again, and now with therapy, they won't get those 5 people calling them because there aren't 5 people that have slots for therapy.
Yeah.
So so when you're talking about telehealth, if you segment it out
Hmm.
into those pieces, there are a lot of doctors that don't want to do med management anymore, right?
Right.
They don't. It's
Yeah.
full. And so, that's what I would say there. Same
Okay.
priorities, and but letting the people know that we don't have a waiting list and you need
Mhm.
to get your arm around them right away as well.
Right. I'm going to jump back to the your initial point about, you know, responding quickly, getting calls and getting back to the patients, prospective patients quickly, whether you're answering the phone or having to call them back, right? Um, I typically find that a lot of people that are doing the callbacks, many times they're the receptionist or
Yep.
front desk people. Not always treatment coordinators and stuff like that. So it's a variety of people that are trying to implement, follow up or take incoming phone calls. On the incoming phone calls, because you guys are experts at lead intake, um, is there particular steps, or what would you say would be the most important thing when, just say,
Yep.
answering the phone, right, for say a marketing driven consumer?
Yes. So first of all, here's the thing. A doctor's office, if you think about it, right? We all have doctors, whether it's a dentist or mental health, healthcare, whatever it is, they don't chase patients. So think about when you
Oh
call your
yeah.
doctor. right? And you say, I'm coming in, and then you say, I can't make it. They're just like, okay, well, let me know when you can. They're not taking an advocacy approach. They are taking a scheduling approach. So that's why it usually doesn't work to have even the most experienced coordinators do that, because for all the years they've been doing it, they've not, and nor should they. It's not appropriate for them to chase a patient and tell
Yeah.
them why they should be coming in. That's just simply not what they've done their entire career.
Right.
When different treatments came in and when there became a mental health crisis in this country and the world, what happened was you really needed, and that's why we became experts at what we do. That's literally why we were born. It's because when those leads come in, however they're coming in, whether it be a phone call or a form fill that needs to be called back, it matters that the way you ask them. I'll give you an example. If you ran digital for somebody and they answer the phone and they said, oh, I saw your inquiry about Spravato. That person doesn't remember Spravato. They were in the middle of the night and they just know they were in trouble. That's what they remember. So when you're answering the phone, you need to talk about, you inquired about XYZ, but not necessarily what the ad was. It's what they were feeling. You might have been, so you're going to do it that way, because a lot of the mistakes are made where somebody is saying, I know that you wrote in and it was about Spravato, or it was about, and the person's like, no, I don't remember. Bye.
Yeah.
So that's it. It does matter the way that it's answered, and it needs to, and everybody's different, and there's no rule book. You have to be really good at what you do. That's why we do what we do, to take that off of people and be able to do things in a way that matches with the practice and really be an extension. So whoever the practice has doing that, and some people like to take that internally, inside their four walls, they'll say, let me hire somebody, which is fine. And it's great if they can not be doing 10 other things. That's my other tip, is that what happens is everybody, listen, we're all guilty of it. You want to take that best person, whether it's your tech, your clinical coordinator, whoever that may be, and you want to, now they're so good, I want them to do these 5 things.
Yeah.
Then all of a sudden they can't. Now, A, they didn't sign up for it. And B, their skill sets aren't in all those areas.
Yeah.
So it's really, really good if they're going to hire somebody. We often train people, at times. If you're going to hire somebody, I would say, make sure that their skill set is giving the patient what they need, or the potential patient what they need, in a digestible language that they can understand.
No. So kind of maybe taking that to the next step. If I am looking for somebody, right? What kind of background, or who makes for somebody that would be good at that? Who would you make recommendation as to how you would recruit or find this kind of person?
Yes, there are things that you could do, but it's really indicative of the type of practice
Oh, okay.
that it's in, because there are some practices that would look at this and say, I really do need somebody with a sales background, but won't be salesy with this.
Right.
And that's fine. That's actually a fine way to go. However, your training is very long there, because they really do have to know what they're talking about. And depending on how much the practice offers, that may or may not make sense. If it was a practice just offering one thing, you can go that direction. But if you have a practice that's offering 7 different modalities of treatment, then you may want to go for a clinical person who also can be good at keeping things short and succinct. See, it's honestly, it's a challenge. It's again why we do what we do. It's a challenge because finding those people is really tough. You can't take a clinical person and make them into a mini salesperson and then not have them be salesy. They
Yeah.
don't want to do it, and nor does anyone in the office. So that's
Yeah.
why it's a tough nut to crack.
Yeah.
You can't take a salesperson and make them into as much of a clinical person as you need them to be, and you really need the right people. So it is indicative of each practice, what they're looking for. And so then we can talk about, okay, if you really want to do this internally,
Mhm.
let's go about it this way.
Mhm.
And it just takes a little back and forth conversation, because you want to get somebody that's going to stay, love what they do, and do it well.
Mhm. What about some tactics? Say for example, telephone tactics. Somebody, not somebody that I have to call back, but maybe somebody that just called in, noticed that we were running, they found us on Google for, say TMS. Let's just say somebody asked, calling in about and asking about, about TMS, right? Um, what would you say would be some good ways of, or maybe initial conversations that you can start with them, or how do you get the conversation started with, because you got people doing this all the time, how do
Sure.
you get that conversation going where this person could now feel comfortable kind of maybe peeling back the onion and that kind of stuff?
Well, you don't want to say, how are you? That's
Okay.
first. They will tell you, and it'll be very lengthy. So one of the tips I would say is that you really want to be controlling that call in a
Hmm.
way that gives them information and allows you to extract information that could tell you a lot about
Okay.
about not about what's wrong with them, but about what you're dealing with. In
Hmm.
that, are they going to show up? If it's cash pay, can they afford it? If they don't have insurance, are do you have resources to send them off with if they can't, right? So there are different ways. And again, you either need somebody who innately has these skills
Hmm.
to be able to do this and determine it, or you outsource it. It's that simple. Do you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
because again, it's an internet lead, everything else, it's just fine in their
Hmm.
practice. If somebody walks in and says, oh yeah, Barbara is a patient of yours and she told me all about TMS and that's why I'm here, totally different ball game. They
Yeah.
can talk just as they always would, and they'll probably get that because they've got Barbara who's trusted. Same thing
Hmm.
if it's a doctor. On that internet lead, it's they don't know anybody and they don't know anything. So you first need to be warm and caring. You need to remind them of why they called. So unless you're answering right then they know why they're calling. But if you're calling
Right.
back, you're going to remind them of why they called. If it's an incoming call, then the best tip I could give somebody is that you need to control that call. You
Yeah.
need to lead them. What do you want out of this? At the end of the day, what you want is them to come in for a consult.
Hmm.
That means you don't have to tell them everything at once, but you need them to be comfortable enough to come in for a consult.
Hmm. No, and I love the fact that you're pushing for taking control of the call. I mean, what happened, like you said, a lot of patients will come in, call, and what do we do? When we answer the phone, we basically say, "How can I help you?" Right? "Hi, this is Bill Fukui with TMS of the Rockies. How can I help you?" Right? So what we've done is we've just given them control. Now they
Exactly.
control, and they're like, "Oh, well, I'm," and they can go off, right? Or they can just ask you a question, and now you're in defense mode, and all you're doing is blocking and trying to, handle their questions. You're not in control, right? You're trying to give them good answers, but you're not in control, right?
Exactly. So, yeah, and that's all done in training with the staff. Like if somebody wants to grow their own staff to do that, which is fine, then it's just all done. There's a lot of training. There's a lot to it.
Mm-hmm.
I remember when I was younger, I was actually in finance. I was a commodity broker. We were trained by the best back
Mm-hmm.
then, to do what we did. And funny enough, a lot of that training, it just doesn't go away. It comes in through life with you, but you can't use those tactics with mental health, but you can use the premise in which they're built. And again, it's a tough balance, if that
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah, it is. And I think you're right that a lot of people that come into these positions and dealing with incoming calls, they've never really gotten comfortable with how do you take those questions and say, hey, I'd be happy to answer all of your questions about TMS. Can I ask you a couple of questions first?
Exactly.
And all of a sudden they're like, they're not going to say no, but now all of a sudden you're the one asking questions. You're the one asking questions. You're the one, because at the end of the day, I want our, even when they're newer people taking intake, I want them to know they know so much more about
Exactly.
than what the caller does, right? The
Right.
caller doesn't know. That's why they're calling. We are the experts. We in the office, we are the experts. We know what they need to know, right?
Yep.
Not having them ask enough questions to maybe they can figure it out. It's what do we need? Like you said, be concise. How can we take
Yep.
this? What could go on a long time with just answering questions. You know what they need to know, right? You know. So by taking control, like you're saying, now all of a sudden I can get to those things much quicker than hoping they stumble onto them with maybe the right question, right?
Yes, for sure. And then it's really about expectations with the leads, right? Because when you're running a campaign and the leads are coming in, yes, you want them all to be good and qualified, and you hope, for that. And the reality of it is, if you're getting one or two out of every 10 to become a patient, and the other eight go somewhere else in the practice, or part of the other eight goes
Hmm.
to, not all of them, because they won't, it's just a numbers game, won't all go, but part of the other eight goes somewhere else in the practice, and the rest you send off with resources. That's realistic. So
Hmm.
it's finding and spending the time with the ones that and that's again an art. It's an art.
Hmm.
And you're either going to have somebody train the people in the office to master that art, which can be done and it can be done very well, or you send that out to be done the way it needs to be done, and you make sure that it represents your brand and your office the way you want. One of the biggest mistakes I see people make is going with a third party center of any kind that the end user feels like they're outside, they're not there, or they can't answer anything, or they
Hmm.
can't book, or they're just going to take a message, because that's very, very bad for when you're running a digital marketing campaign and you're spending money. You lost that lead right
Hmm.
there. So that piece is really important. If you're doing it in-house, you got to do it right, and you have to do it
Right.
quickly, and you have to do it in such a way that the person can trust. And the same thing if you're outsourcing.
Yeah. One of the other questions that I would always get, and we would secret shop practices, not just on the phone. I mean, obviously, a lot of consultants will secret shop the practice to see how they answer the phone, and if they're doing the things like you're saying, taking control and being able to, you know, manage that lead in a way that we can come to a conclusion as to are they a candidate? Do they
Mhm.
qualify? Does it, all those kinds of things. But what I get with a lot of practices, they say, "Oh, I get phone calls, but they don't answer, and they're in chase mode, right? They don't answer, or they
Yep.
gave me a wrong phone number or stuff like that." Um, but they filled out a form, right? So the next question is always, well, how do we respond to them? What do I if I say I'm interested in this, and how much does it cost? How do we respond to that? What do you would coach or advise practices do when just generally, how do you answer emails?
Okay, so because they won't come to the phone.
Yeah, because they're not on the phone, or say they got on they submitted a form, and then I got the form, so I tried to call, but I left a voicemail message, right? I left a voice, which happens a lot, right? I
Yeah, I
don't
would just
recognize
nurture
your
them.
number, right?
You, yeah, so here's the bottom line. When somebody's asking you through a text or an email, but they will not pick up the phone and they're just saying, "How much is this?" Right?
Hmm.
You would if you tell them, let's say it's cash pay, but you never got to talk to them. It's TMS, it's cash pay, and you write them back $6,000 to $12,000. You're not going to get them anyway.
You're not going to
So
get them.
you don't do that. You're not going to get them anyway. And you need, if they're not going to come to the phone, again, it's one or two out of every 10. Don't spend all your time. I'm
Hmm.
not saying don't nurture. You do need to nurture the lead. So, but don't spend all your time on those others and
Yeah,
chase. Spend your time on the two that are going to become a patient. But
I
on the
agree.
on the other eight, right, you're going to segment, and four of them are out of area. They saw an ad, they
Mhm.
were at their mother's, they were out of area, that it's not good, something else, but you got four left. And let's say they are those, they'll text you and they'll email you. You've got to get them somehow to talk to you, and the way to do, and they'll come back. We've gotten people, I mean, I've done this hundreds and hundreds of times. We've gotten people that come back a year later, 3 months later. So just
Right.
just keep doing what everybody's been doing. Just nurture them right. Don't drive them crazy. Send
Yeah.
an email. I know that we couldn't get on the phone, but let me give you a little bit more information. Send them some statistics. Reach back out to them in another 2 weeks. Don't drive them
Mhm.
crazy every week,
Yeah.
because they'll be numb to it anyway.
Yeah.
So you know what I mean? So just nurture it, and eventually the ones that are going to do this, they do rise to the top and they come back. Don't stop calling, because you catch them on the right day. Don't
Hmm.
forget, Bill, these people are hurting. They're struggling. They have worry. They have OCD. They have PTSD. They have anxiety. They have depression. Whatever that's going on with them, they don't want to get on the phone. It's hard for them to pick up the phone, but they will. You might catch somebody on the right day. I
Hmm.
think people in offices have to remember, and I think they lose sight. What they do is awesome. What the doctors we work with do is nothing short of amazing. But
Hmm.
because they're on the front lines, and they're there all the time, they don't walk around all day thinking we're helping so many people, we're, oh my goodness, look what we're doing. No, they're just being the doctors they are and doing what they went to school and
That's
committed
what
to do. But
exactly.
what they're really doing is amazing, and so their staff needs to keep that in mind every day, and somebody
Hmm.
needs to be telling them that all the time, so that they're actually acting accordingly if they're doing this in-house. If not, when we do it or somebody else does it, it needs to be done in such a way that your motivation is to help people. And what goes wrong in this industry a lot,
Mm-hmm.
because you've, again, I know why I do what I do. You can't be a company that does this just to do it with dollar signs in your eyes,
Mm-hmm.
because if you are, in the end, sometimes it doesn't work because
Yeah.
there's someone struggling really badly on the other end. It's no joke. This isn't like, we're not selling a widget here, or,
Yeah.
a shirt. There,
Yeah.
we're trying to get people help, and we're trying
Mm-hmm.
to get them to come in to an office that maybe they have to come 5 days a week.
Mm-hmm.
And nobody thinks they can do that, but they
Right.
can. And
Yeah.
when they do, they're crying when they leave because they have a TMS family.
Yeah. Yep. You made a point to in terms of truly understanding the prospect. I mean, a lot of these patients, whether OCD, depressed, major depressive disorder, whatever they're struggling with, um, they're not like you and I. They're more
Right.
adverse to socializing with people, especially strangers, people they don't know, or institutional
Mhm.
kinds of things. So I do recommend many times when, say, for example, just responding to an email, right? I picked up the phone, tried to call them, and I love the idea of nurturing. You got to
Yep.
nurture them. It's just not one and done. You got to stay in front of them. But I think one of the things to be truly helpful, and I love that word, being helpful, is how can we help them get information in a way that they can digest it, and also in a way that helps differentiate us, because they probably may have reached out to other people.
Yes.
So I would say with email follow up, definitely leverage links. Don't assume that, I got a lead from my website or from the Google or whatever, but I don't need to send them back to my website. Absolutely, you need to send them back to your website. Links to follow up, if, whether it's cost, hey, maybe have a page on affordability, or,
Hmm.
affordability and insurance, right? That we can make this treatment affordable for you, right?
Yes, that's great. If you
You
can do
know,
that on the site, and then the person that didn't won't come to the phone, well, then they can at least see the way that practice makes it affordable, for
yeah.
sure, which is
I
great.
think that, and I would even say take it even more personal, take it to the personality level. Um, People will communicate with you and come in when they feel like they know or like you, right?
Hmm.
How do we create that sense of likability? And I think the main thing with that is don't be afraid to use pictures, like in your email signature. Put your picture in there. Let
Yep.
people know what you look like. I mean, realtors do this all the time. Like you never get a business card that
Right.
doesn't have their photo on it. Well, they do that for a reason, right? And so, I encourage practices to make investments in their website using custom photography, the about the doctor page or the provider pages, right? Those are really, really important pages to feed patients to, right? So
Yes, even video. We
oh,
script out videos
video.
all the
That's
time, and it's so great because if, again, we'll take, you want to grab those differentiators and really script it out well, and they're using that and repurposing it even in a little sound bite, like you said,
hmm
um, there. And this way, you're a person to them, and you're not just this, you know,
exactly. You're not brick and mortar, right?
exactly.
It's now you're kind of humanizing and advancing the rapport and relationship long before or maybe they build up enough courage to pick up the phone and call, or reply to your call, right? Or
Right.
respond to your email. But you've got to kind of break down that barrier, and it's a social barrier, let's
Yeah.
face it. Um, and I think once we kind of put ourselves, like you said, in their shoes, understanding who these people are, and their needs and how to communicate with them, then I think we can come up with better ways to engage with them that meets them where they're at.
Absolutely. And that's really what it's all about. And I know that so many of these practices are, again, bringing in the greatest treatments. And I find it so sad that so many people still don't know about them,
It,
and
I
that's,
have
I think,
completely agree. Completely agree. Well, I love this topic. I can talk all day on
uh,
this topic, and I know I've taken up a fair amount of your time. I do want to maybe reach out to you. We've got a lot of topics that we can be talking about. This is just one of them. So I'm going to probably tap you here in the future, Mindy, and see if we can get on another webinar. But thank you for your time today.
my pleasure. Always happy to help. I hope you have a great 4th of July weekend.
You do the same. Take care, everybody.
Thanks for joining us for the MedShark Insider with Bill Fukui. Join us next week for another dive into all things medical marketing. All episodes can be streamed at www.medsharkdigital.com/medshark-insider.